What's up everyone, welcome back to more Reddit stories about crazy people, Karens, and all that kind of stuff. So as usual, be sure to subscribe if you haven't yet for more Reddit content, and let's get into today's stories. I torpedoed a dude's entire career because he was a bully. My mom is incredibly successful in a very niche but very lucrative field of business. This allowed my dad to be a stay-at-home dad and for me and my siblings to get a good education. When I graduated from college, I decided to go into the same field as my mom. While I love her and our relationship is good, I very much did not want to only be viewed as her kid, or receive special treatment due to how well regarded she is, so I use my dad's surname, and generally keep who my mom is to myself. I also avoided coming to work for her. In my field and country, it's generally accepted that people are hired for a trial period, at the end of which either the employee or employer can cut ties with no fines or compensation required. So anyway, I went to work at one company. Again, I'll remind you, very niche market, very few employment opportunities. I went in for my trial period and everyone seemed pretty happy with me. I put out some fires, and one superior describes me as a workhorse because I'm first to the office, last out the door. It goes pretty well, except for one colleague in my team. This dude is a huge jerk. I'm a bit of a people pleaser and try to be on good terms with everyone, but jerk will have none of it. Dude is incredibly rude. He keeps being very confrontational. Like if a colleague, not just me, was getting any sort of acknowledgement, jerk would belittle them and their accomplishment. If someone was saying they had a rough time with something, jerk would pop up, going, "Oh yeah, I did that a while back, it was super easy." Whenever someone tried talking about future plans with me, jerk would go, "Oh yeah, we'll see about that." He also apparently says some very unkind things about my appearance and masculinity, but those at least he had the decency to say behind my back, I suppose, and I only learned about them later. Like, dude was incredibly mean, for apparently no reason except trying to make himself look better by making everyone else look worse. This one thing wasn't true to me specifically because I'm male, but his meanness seemed to apply especially to women. A few comments were about how working in this field isn't for moms, and they should be raising kids or whatever, and some other very bad stuff. But management seemed pretty confident keeping him around because apparently he was a pretty good worker, and they liked that he was ambitious. Fine. My trial period ends. I am offered a permanent position, but decide this is not the place for me, as I don't love being anybody's workhorse, and have very little interest in sticking around in jerk's vicinity. I respectfully inform them I will not be sticking around and go find work elsewhere. On my last day, I come to say goodbye. Management says they're very sorry to see me go. Colleagues wish me well and say they're gonna miss me. Jerk goes, "Ha, told you OP wasn't gonna stick around. Good riddance. Maybe this field isn't for you either." Very loudly. I leave. I'm not very confrontational and I don't have to deal with him anymore anyway, so I just go. Some time goes by. I am now employed elsewhere. I'm happy and doing well. I love my work and my colleagues. I've been promoted and I don't really think about jerk anymore. Except, apparently there's a relative influx of applicants from jerk's company. Relative because again, very niche market. Whatever. My boss knows I did a trial period over there, so whenever an applicant comes up, he asks me about my experience with them. There are very few people I dislike, so when asked, I usually give my honest opinion, which is usually very positive. But guess whose application we suddenly receive? It's jerk. My boss asks for my opinion and I say, "Look, I have personal feelings about this person and I can't be objective." Boss, knowing just how positive I usually am about basically everyone, asks me what's up, and eventually I tell him. I tell him everything. Jerk obviously doesn't get hired. I assume that's the end of that. Few days later, we have family dinner. My mom goes, "Wait, you had a trial period at that company, right? Do you know jerk?" Well, my mom knew there was a person I really didn't get along with at that company, and the crappy things they did. I tell her it was him. Obviously, she isn't gonna hire him either, especially given his views on women. So my company ends up hiring one of jerk's company's former workers. Me and her are on great terms, and this is how I discover what happened there. Jerk got promoted, and that made a bunch of people want to leave. This caused management to look into why, and why strong applicants were leaving after their trial period was over. Turned out it was jerk. Someone had a talk with him, and from what I gather, he was not receptive to criticism. He was let go. This is when he applied to the company I work for and to my mom's. From what I understand, he no longer works in our field. There are, as I mentioned, not many employers around, but unfortunately, I have no idea what he does do. Laughing in my cousin's face when she tried to stage an intervention for my, quote, drug use. I, 27 male, have a condition which causes me to overproduce earwax. I don't tell people about it because I was bullied for it growing up. Only my wife and parents know. Every other day I have to put medication in each ear, let it sit, then flush it out with a rubber-tipped syringe. This prevents ear infections, vertigo, permanent hearing loss, and worsening of my tinnitus. I have dealt with all of these things to some extent, so I stay on top of my eardrop regimen. If my alarm goes off when I'm with others, I go to the bathroom for 20 minutes and knock it out. If I don't follow my schedule, I forget, so I can't put it off. 2 weeks ago, my mom hosted family dinner. My cousin Kara, 37 female, saw me waltz off to the bathroom to do my thing, syringe in hand, and asked what I was doing. I said just a minor medical thing. She kept pushing, but I didn't want to say anything because she gossips. I told her it's personal and scooted past. When I left, she was standing in the hallway. She asked what took so long and why the toilet didn't flush. I said none of her business. She said she didn't mean to offend. Last weekend, my friend called me to invite me out to lunch with some buddies. He said to meet up at his house so we wouldn't have to drive separately. I arrive at his house to find Kara and my friends sitting solemnly on the couch. Kara said they were here to talk about my problem and that they just wanted to help. I said there is no problem. Suddenly it clicked in my head what this was about. I couldn't help but laugh a little bit out of shock. She asked what was so funny, and I said, first of all, why didn't you talk to my wife or my parents? She said she didn't want to involve my enablers, which just made me laugh harder. She looked annoyed and said she was done trying to help. I said that's alright by me. She stormed out. I explained to my friends. They knew I have a condition, but never pressed me on it. I guess when Kara approached them, they thought I was lying. Obviously, I'd rather they know than worry about me being an addict when I'm not. I thank them for their support anyways. Kara had apparently reached all of my friends through social media. We all got a good hearty laugh out of it, which Kara must have heard because she was, of course, eavesdropping. She burst back in and told me to tell them the truth, to which I said I did. My friend kicked her out. We went for lunch and I thought that was that. My mom called me yesterday and told me she had talked to Kara about the whole thing and explained. She said Kara was very upset with me and essentially called me an asshole for not explaining and laughing in her face and embarrassing her. I said I was embarrassed and that Kara had no right to my info. I think she shouldn't go around snooping and making assumptions. My mom still thinks I should apologize. Saw a cop wandering around in my backyard and didn't even know the ordinance he was trying to enforce on me when I confronted him. First of all, I live in the Midwest, but I'm a transplant from the West Coast. It's wild to me that there's no enclosed properties and people can just wander through to cut across faster. I'm in the process of addressing that. So that's how he was just wandering around my backyard. Secondly, my family traditionally chooses cops or military, each generation. Obviously not everyone, but there's always at least two in both, each generation. How to deal with laws and such is taught to us early on. But yes, I understand every place is different. It's fall. We had a small little fire pit we were hanging out around earlier. The decorative ones you can just sit around and roast marshmallows on that's like knee-high. I was working in the garage at the time and we have the sheer curtains closed around the house, for light but also privacy. My wife saw some obscured shape of a man wandering around my backyard and came to get me. As I go to investigate, he starts pounding on my back porch door like he's got a warrant out for my arrest and startled my wife. I opened the door and asked what he wanted. Never identified himself or said hello, just demanded to know why I was burning logs in my backyard. I told him it was fall and we were hanging around the fire talking. And I snapped back, asking what makes him think he can wander around my property without any probable cause. He huffed back and said he'd received a call from dispatch that my backyard had stinky smoke, and someone called to complain. I said that's nice, but it's just a fire and wood you can see from afar. It's a decorative fireplace. He said I wasn't allowed to do that because of the city ordinance. I said, That's for leaves, foliage, and debris, and only specific days and times. There is nothing that says I can't burn wood for warmth. You're aware of that, right? He huffed again and was all, well, I don't know the specific times or what you can or can't burn. I just know there's a time frame. So I said, okay, well, I feel like you should know that, but it's just wood. And he said it didn't smell like wood. I rolled my eyes and said that you can see it for yourself as you pass by it on your way out and off my property, as you have no probable cause to be addressing it like this. You could have seen that from the road as we have no house next to us, told dispatch it was a fire pit, and then used the front door and identified yourself. Please see yourself off my property, as we've broken no laws or ordinances and I've been cooperative in your investigation. My wife has mixed feelings. We moved to a small town where everyone talks, and she doesn't exactly want to be black sheep, but she's not exactly thrilled at the fact that he seemed like this was normal to do. I found it mildly infuriating. I ran to help a little girl screaming for help, and then I was doing some yard work in the front yard when I started hearing someone screaming something. I followed it to the backyard when I realized it was a young kid screaming for help repeatedly from the patch of woods separating my house and the neighbors on the street below. So I run into the woods and I find a little girl laying on the ground still screaming for help. I ask, "Are you okay? What's wrong?" She smiles and says, "I'm fine, I'm just trying to catch my dog." A puzzled look on my face, she follows with, "My mom told me to act hurt and yell for help and the dog will come to me." The little white, constantly yapping dog that's gotten through the fence 3 times this week did not come to her rescue. But I did help catch the angry bastard while telling her the story of the little girl who cried wolf. Dangerous, stupid parenting. Alright friends, that's it for today's stories. Thank you for watching, I really appreciate it. Hit that like button if you enjoyed and subscribe to the channel for more Reddit content. So I'm out of here, take care and I'll see you next time.